A new report suggests the drought is not easing up, not just yet. While recent rains have stabilized some of the farming states, the dry conditions are intensifying in places like Kansas and Nebraska. The amount of land in exceptional drought in Nebraska spiked 19 percentage points to 22.5. Now, while that number in Kansas almost doubled last week to nearly 2/3 of the state, overall the state's in some form of drought has dropped to just under 62%. And with no end in sight for the drought, which is already causing havoc for our corn supply, should the government waive the federal requirement for the amount of ethanol in gasoline, since about 40% of our depleted corn supply is going to making ethanol? Let's ask Christina Butts, Executive Director of Legal Affairs for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and Geoff Cooper, the Vice President of Research and Analysis at the Renewable Fuel Association. Geoff, I'm going to start with you. All right, so why not get rid of this? Look, prices are going up all over the country. If you've been to the grocery store lately, you're seeing it, you're feeling it. People in some places are hungry. Why keep putting corn in ethanol and ethanol in our gas?
Well, the fact of the matter is, waiving the Renewable Fuels program today would really have very negligible impacts on corn prices. We certainly wouldn't see the types of reductions in corn price that the livestock groups are pushing for. At the same time, if we did substantially reduce our production and use of ethanol, we would see gases move higher, and certainly we're already seeing gas prices increasing in the last few weeks, and that's...
Christina, what do you say about this? Will gas prices go up, and will corn prices barely move at all if we get rid of the ethanol requirement?
Well, even if corn prices do change marginally, at this point our producers are in such dire constraint that any marginal benefit would be a significant benefit for our industry. We've got 70% of America's cattle country under a severe drought, and when you have roughly 40% of the corn crop being mandated to go to one user of corn over another, that government policy needs to be waived and it needs to be reformed.
Geoff, the federal government on the verge of approving a grain mainly used as livestock feed to make a cleaner version of ethanol. But the drought happening now, shouldn't the government cease and desist?
No, I don't think so, and I'd like to respond to something that Ms. Butts said.
Go right ahead.
We hear this 40% number repeated all the time. The fact of the matter is, 1/3 of the corn that we're using for ethanol comes back to the livestock market as animal feed. We're only using the starch that's in that corn kernel, the protein and the fiber, the fat, and that's about 1/3 of the kernel comes right back to the animal feed market. And Ms. Butts' members are the primary beneficiaries of that. They feed a lot of distillers grains to cattle.
What do you say,
Well,
Christine?
he's absolutely right. Our producers that do have access to these byproducts known as distiller grains do enjoy feeding them. But we are under situations right now where ethanol plants are shutting down or idling, and these feedstocks are not available. And you also have to keep in mind that
why would you want a waiver of the program?
You also have to keep in mind that 7.6 million metric tons were exported just last year. So all we're simply asking for is let's compete head-to-head for a bushel of corn. EPA has the authority to waive the mandate. Let's waive the mandate and let us compete on a level playing field.
What about that? I mean, you guys get a lot of benefits. The government has picked a winner in this, and it's your industry.
No, I disagree. We hear about level playing field. This industry, the ethanol industry, has been fighting for a level playing field for 30 years. A level playing field with the oil industry. They control what fuels the consumer can get at the pump. And so the RFS, the Renewable Fuel Standard, is the only means we have of ensuring that consumers have access to a domestic renewable fuel when they pull up to the pump.
All right.
Without the Renewable Fuel Standard, refiners are going to move away from gasoline or move away from ethanol in the long term.
Well, all right. Well, I want to ask you both this question because this is what I'm really concerned about. I'm concerned about food prices at the grocery store year over year. Chicken up 11%, beef is up 10%, ham is up 7%. This is not good. Not good. Wouldn't it help to get rid of this ethanol requirement? Geoff, I'll let you start. Christina, you get last word.
Okay. No, I mean, there have been several studies in the last few weeks that look at what would the impact on corn prices be. In fact, one from Purdue University came out today. They said waiving the program would result in a 5% reduction in corn price. When you work that through to the retail level, I mean, we're talking about, 3% food inflation for 2012. That compares to a 10-year average of 2.9%, so we're right in line with historical norms. Next year, when you expect the impacts of the drought to kind of work through to the retail level, it's projected 3.5% food inflation.
All right,
so the impact of the drought is...
Well, I think absolutely we want this waiver, and we're fortunate and grateful for any states that are moving forward on the petitions to EPA. And any time that you're going to increase input costs on the live animal side, there will be a trickle-down effect that at some point will impact the retailers, the restaurants, as well as consumers. So we're simply asking for the EPA administrator to use the authority that she has and grant the livestock industries this petition and grant us this waiver.
All right, Christina and Geoff, thanks for coming on tonight. You guys are good sports for talking about this and explaining your points of view. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, employees